Kiss Golden Messenger, ladies and gentlemen. Terms of Surrender is the name of the 7th album. You're going to be at the Aladdin Theater tonight. And $1 from the ticket sales go to the Durham Public Schools Foundation.
Yeah. And
I was just telling Jared, my colleague, before I came down here, I watched the video for that. Of course, I got teary-eyed. I'm like, I got to clean it up. It's not just about teachers, though. Tell us about I Need a Teacher and the background of that song.
Well, I mean, let's see. The I Need a Teacher came from a time when I was writing that I felt like I really could use a map to some very complicated stuff that I was going through. So, you know, it wasn't about public school teachers per se, but I was wishing that I had something that could help me find my way through whatever it was I was going through, which is, you know, that's not really something that exists, not with infallible guidance. But as we were conceiving of the video, we were in the midst in North Carolina, where we live, of some pretty massive teacher strikes, public school teacher and staff walkouts. You know, looking for better pay, but also better support for students and staff. I think support for public education in North Carolina is some of the lowest in the country. My wife is a public school teacher there, and you know, I come from a family of teachers. Both of my parents were public school teachers, so I've sort of felt I felt all of the emotions around public education for my entire life, and I felt like we're kind of in a situation that we could do some kind of something small, and also be a voice for public education that is not in the public education system, but is rather, you know, we're people from outside of the Durham public schools that are saying we need to take care of this, or it's going to go away, which is exactly what the bad guys want, basically.
As a daughter of a public school teacher, I think maybe that's why particularly that video, resonates and with me in particular. I saw a video, an interview that you did, and you talked about when you graduated from UNC. You went on to do to go into rural areas of North Carolina to do these cultural surveys.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about that, your face really lit up, and it's like it certainly hit a chord with you, if you will, particularly because you were talking to musicians. But describe that work that you did and sort of what it did for you professionally, because it seemed to also jar some things there.
I went to UNC and got a graduate degree in folklore, actually. So I had been out of, I got my bachelor's many years before. And so I went back to school, got a degree in folklore, and then worked as a folklorist for the state of North Carolina, various agencies in the state, the Humanities Council, the North Carolina Arts Council, and some other organizations. And they would hire, at the time, they were doing what they called cultural surveys in the eastern part of the state, which meant there were a handful of us that were going out there documenting folkloric traditions, however you want to define that. That's where it gets really thorny. But you know, I thought of it as just everyday vernacular culture, the things, the everyday things around which people build communities and make meaning, you know. So it didn't have to be old. I did a lot of work with a lowrider car club, for instance, which is, you know, that's folklore. At that time, music for me, I had been making music and making records and touring my whole life, and it just didn't seem, this was kind of, His Golden Messenger existed, but just mostly as a thing in my head. I didn't really know what I was going to do with music at that point. I was just about to have my first kid, and I thought, like, you know, music could if not disappear from my life, certainly the public performative aspect of it, maybe that part is gone from my life. And seeing, sort of spending time in these communities where the musicians in town were not angling for much more than being with their friends and playing these songs that they know for their community. I don't know. It was very moving, actually, to see that sort of personal relationship to music, having been trying to, quote unquote, make it at some level or another. The people that I was with had a very genuine relationship to music that I felt like at the time I had lost a little bit. So that was big for me.
I noticed your Instagram page promoting tonight's show at the Aladdin Theater is the image of the white stag deer sign here in Portland. You've been around here a couple of times for Pickathon.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and so there's lots of rights out. How much do you love Pickathon? Because you've been here 3-4 more times.
Pickathon. How many times have we played Pickathon? By the way, I have Phil Cook sitting to my left. Phil Cook is. Phil Cook has played in Hiss Golden Messenger for many, many years, and so Phil is a member of Hiss and has his own band called the Guitar Heels as well. So collectively, I would say we've played Pickathon 10 times. I think Hiss has played probably 4 or 5 times. Yeah. And Phil is there quite often as well.
Well, I was going to mention Phil because when I went backstage, the first thing I said to you is I was trying to figure out, because I'm like, he looks familiar. And then you said your name, and I was like, I play Phil's music on KINK Sunday Brunch, Hiss Golden Messenger on KINK Sunday Brunch. So it was pretty fun to see you here as well. Tonight at the Aladdin Theater, tickets still available.
Yeah.
And we've got a couple of more songs and a meet and greet afterwards. So let me get out of the way.